All right, how's everybody doing today? Oh man, it's good. I'm doing great. Today was actually a very exciting morning, fun day, considering how things have been the last month and a half or so. But I'm really excited about this class. Very grateful for the coaches and all their work. Our recruiting department did an outstanding job. Administration did a great job of supporting us and giving us the resources that we need to be where we needed to be when we needed to be there, to be able to put together this class. Signed a total of 22 guys this morning. Still have one in-state young man that's going to make a decision tonight. So we've got our fingers crossed about that one. Hopefully we'll end up with 23, but he'll let us know tonight at 6 o'clock. 18 high school guys. So we signed 18 high schoolers of the 22, 4 transfer portal guys, 6 total mid-years. So the 4 transfers plus 2 of our mid-year guys, quarterback and receiver, and Anthony Calandria, the quarterback, and Jaden Gibson will be the receiver that'll be here in January. Overall, the breakdown, we signed 13 on offense, 9 on defense, possibly 10, depending upon the outcome tonight. When you look at our biggest needs, the biggest needs that we needed to hit going into it was wide receiver. We knew we were going to have a mass exodus of senior guys at the receiver position. And then the next big need for us was defensive line. We knew we were going to have a lot of defensive linemen transition out of here, especially with a lot of the grad transfers that came in. So we knew we were going to have to stock up on the defensive line. And with the transfer portal, offensive line was not a big need for us going into this cycle. We only had one spot, and we had a young man committed for a very long time, and he stuck with us through the transition. But because of the transition on the offensive line, we've had 2 of our current guys decide to go into the portal. So we'll address that in the next recruiting window. But the biggest need now for us really is corner. We felt like we were in decent shape. We were kind of caught off guard when Fentrell went into the portal. We felt like he was going to come back, so we'll address that need as well. Probably going to go. We did sign 2 high school corners in this class in preparation for the transition down the road, but we'll have to probably address that with some more veteran guys in the transfer portal once we get into the next signing window. If you just look at the class, 5 guys from the state of Virginia. 7 different states represented with the guys that we signed in this class. What I like about this class is we got a bunch of winners. When you look at their combined record from a high school standpoint, 188 and 58, so they got a 76% winning percentage as a class. 5 of the young men were part of state championship teams. So really excited about that, and then we feel good about the progress we were able to make with some of the older guys in the transfer portal. So just some opening thoughts. Really excited about this group, and the last thing I'll say is I'm really excited because these guys chose us, right? Considering the season and how it ended, these guys chose us, and I think throughout the course of the season we had 3 total guys decommit. 2 of those happened early in the season. A defensive lineman in the corner early in the season, and then once everything transpired late in the season, we only lost 1 commitment in this class. So the rest of these guys stuck with us, and we were able to add some transfers amidst obviously the adversity that we were going through as a program. So these guys chose us, and that was my message to the staff: is they could have decided to go anywhere in the country, but they chose to hitch their saddle up to this staff, this program. So I'm excited about the future. So.
Tony, when you start to put together a recruiting class, how much more challenging is it now when you don't know for sure which of your existing players might decide to enter the portal?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you want to. Philosophically, I want to be a program that builds through the draft. Meaning that we take high school guys, we develop them, we have distribution throughout our recruiting classes by position. So we got guys in the pipeline ready to go, and then use the transfer portal if you lose somebody off cycle or a guy's a 3-year guy decides to go pro. That's really the main approach and philosophy that I have. But now you got to be ready to react. So for me, it's still about recruiting the guys in our locker room, and the way that we do that is create a good environment for them to grow and develop in all areas of their life, and making sure that they're having a great experience, and then also giving them a voice for them to voice any concerns that they have within the program. But it's challenging. So you're recruiting your own locker room. You're trying to project, when guys are going to transition out. So you got guys in the pipeline, and then you're constantly, observing the transfer portal just to make sure you're ready to react once a change takes place.
I'm curious, just from talking to a few of the commits leading up to today, they talked about how you handled everything that had happened over the last month. What was your message to them about everything that transpired? On ground?
Just one, the result is that this place is going to be, extremely safe going forward because of the result, and unfortunately, it took an incident to raise awareness. And the other message was, truth be told, unfortunately, we're in a society right now where it could happen anywhere. Anywhere, any given time, and you never know. And so you don't want to live your life in fear, but you do want to, be somewhere where you feel like you can be secure. So just letting them know that all of us here, our current team, feels really, really good about the future. And then also the message to them is, man, they got a great opportunity to come, be a part of the healing process, about restoring this program and building it up. So that was my message to them. So be really just very transparent, let them know what I know from an information standpoint, and then just continue to be who we are.
You guys zeroed in on Tony Muskett pretty quickly in the transfer portal. What was it about him that kind of got your interest going?
Great question is looking at the quarterback situation, first and foremost with the distribution. You got a sophomore, you got 2 freshmen, redshirt freshmen, and then you already had a high school guy coming in. And so we were looking for a guy with some experience. And I think the first thing that jumps out is he's played 3 years. He's a freshman of the year in his conference, and then he was back-to-back first team all-conference in his league. So we were looking for a guy with experience, a guy that was competitive, a guy that wanted to come in and compete, wasn't going to be afraid of the competition that he was going to have to go through if he wanted to be the guy. He's from the state of Virginia, and just has a chip on his shoulder. I think as a program right now, we have a chip on our shoulder. We got a lot to prove to a lot of people, even prior to how the season ended. And so I think it was just a natural fit. Very technically sound. When we watch him, he's very, very technically sound. He's had to throw the ball up in an area where it's very windy, and was very successful, throwing the football. So he's got good accuracy. And so those were the things that attracted us to him. We were looking for a guy with experience. We were looking for somebody that was going to want to come in and truly compete, and then go have an appreciation. I think he's done what he needed to do at that level. He feels like he can compete at this level. We believe he can compete at this level, and so we felt like it was a good fit.
Have the guys who are in the transfer portal from the program, have they all closed the door on the possibility of coming back, or could that happen?
I think a couple of them have left the door open. I think some of the ones that have just gotten in, really the conversation hasn't been had yet about where they are. I think give them some time to explore and see what's out there. But a couple of the older guys have not completely closed the door on returning.
I know you have 6 signees from the state of Virginia. That's the most here in a long time. What have you learned in your first year about recruiting the state, and not just to get these guys in, but what will help you going forward?
Right. So really, really excited about the guys that we were able to sign. I think the staff did a really good job of finding guys that we believe fit what we're trying to do as a program, who we are and what we represent as an institution. I think some of the guys that are leaving the state, we learned that our relationships, we got to do a really, really good job of improving our relationships, because the relationships with the schools outside of the state, they had established for a long period of time. And by the time we got into the conversation, they were like, appreciate it, no offense, but we're so far down the road. So we got to do a great job of identifying early the guys that we believe fit what we're looking for, build relationships, not just with them, but with their families and their coaches. And we got to do a great job of being present in the state. And then we got to stay committed to our word of recruiting guys and giving guys that truly desire to come to Virginia and fit an opportunity to come.
Tony, last year for signing day, y'all had just gotten here and we're kind of getting going. This year, what was the overall vibe, and kind of how do you want signing day to look around the McHugh Center?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun this morning. It kind of reminded me of how it used to be, where you stood around the fax machine, and you were just waiting on all the faxes to come in, and it was a race to see who was going to be the first one to get all of their paperwork. I will say, with the way things have changed from a technological standpoint, it's a little bit more difficult, because the player has to sign, his parents have to sign, then you have to, collaborate the information and before you get it certified. But it was a lot of fun to see those guys on FaceTime once that we could make the announcement and they were certified. Man, just to see the smile, because really at the end of the day, that's what it's about. I know we get caught up in recruiting sometimes, and there's so many other things, but at the end of the day, it's a young man who's worked, up to this point in his life to fulfill this dream that he has. So to see the joy of their families, the smiles on their face, and really to see, the elation of the coaches, because the coaches work really, really hard. And the last couple weeks on the road, man, it's been a grind, traveling everywhere, trying to see everybody, fending off other schools that are trying to come in late. So it was, I just wanted to be, a situation where hopefully we don't have too many surprises. We feel good about the work that we put in leading up to the morning of signing day, but really just an opportunity for the staff to celebrate the young men that have made a decision to come be a part of our program.
To add to that, I'll plug your 1:30. You have a live show which is going to be streamed on virginiasports.com. But why did you decide to add a recruiting day show, and what do you want to do with that? Yeah,
it's again just another opportunity to celebrate the young men that have made a decision to come be a part of our program, and to give our fan base and our administration and everybody an opportunity to meet these young men via the stories that we're going to tell a little bit about the process of recruiting these guys, and just an opportunity to highlight these guys one more time to celebrate their commitment to come be a part of this program.
When you look down the class, you can see a focus in the defensive trenches, especially the last few days ending this period here. Was that something you guys saw as soon as you were kind of looking to cycle? You wanted to attack that area first? And a lot of these guys are coming from powerhouse programs as well.
Right. So we knew going into it, when you look at how we build our structure, we want to be in the range of having 16 D linemen, whether that's 9 edge guys, 7 interior, or 8 and 8. And if you look at what we were facing, you had Famui that was getting ready to leave. You had Butler that was getting ready to leave. Akiri had an opportunity to make a decision. Chico was a possible guy that could leave. So we knew going into it that we were going to have to rebuild that room. And even with the addition of Famui and Cam coming back, we still had already planned to make sure. And to be honest with you, in my experience, to really win at the highest level, man, you got to win in the trenches. And so we addressed the number situation last year on the offensive line because we were down so many. This year we were gearing up because we felt like we were going to have more of a transition of going out. And you mentioned something about the powerhouse schools that they came from. Highland Springs, is a school in state that they just won a championship, and that's what I'm talking about. You're bringing in a young man from that program. You look at Lake Taylor had a really, really good season, and I think Britton's going to be. I think he's going to be special. I think he was a diamond in the rough that we found, and then Hammond coming from St. Thomas Aquinas coming off of a championship run there, and so just really excited about the length, the athleticism. That we got, and then also the championship pedigree that some of those guys are going to bring to be able to lead in the trenches, and hopefully that creates that opportunity for us to be led from the inside out. And then we got to do the same thing, going forward on the OL.
You mentioned that Anthony Calandria will be a
Yep.
mid-year. I apologize if you said something about Musket. Will he be a January?
Yes, Musket will be a January. So all 4 of the transfer guys will be
So looking at that position in the spring, Crawford was a guy who played somewhat wide receiver. Jay obviously plays baseball. What do you expect quarterback to look like at spring break?
Right. So Delaney, just to address that, Delaney, it was a situation. Obviously, you felt really good about the depth with Brennan, with Jay, with Grady, and then also with Rainman. Okay. So really, Delaney was like, man, this athlete needs to get on the field. Right. He's very dynamic, and you watch him over there on the scout team, and when he had the ball in his hand, nobody was touching him. So I'm like, man, we got to figure out something to do with him. So it's like, okay, Delaney, hey, since we know you came in the summer, right? It's a long line. You're going to get another opportunity in the spring to go back to quarterback and compete. Can we just try to get you on the field and get you to be able to contribute somehow? And, man, he was all for it until he hurt his hand. And so we were going to throw him back there on kickoff return and just try to get him some experience. But, I look at the competition. All those guys now with Davis and Delaney, and then you got Anthony, then you got Jay, and we're going to have to put together a schedule for him because he's legitimately, in contention to be a weekend starter. Right, and I don't want to hinder that progress, but at the same time too, if he wants to be a starting quarterback, at the University of Virginia, he's going to have to be present in practice. And so Coach O'Connor and I are going to meet in detail once we get through signing day and get through the Christmas break and get back and really put together a plan of what that looks like. And then you'll have Musket here. So I'm excited about the competition. I think the competition is just gonna make the cream rise to the top and give us not only competition, but it'll give us some competitive depth there too.
At running back, you added Kobe Pace
Yeah.
with you, coach. You talk about just reconnecting with him and what that process was like.
Yeah, and so I was in a situation where at running back we feel really good about Dante and Noah, the two high school guys, and Dante is a guy, an in-state guy that I think that we have to continue to do a really good job with because he plays running back. But man, every time I see him, his shoulders get wider and wider and wider. So hopefully he'll stay at running back, and that's where we're going to start him, and we anticipate. But didn't really have to go out and sign a running back because we had the possibility of Ronnie coming back. We had the possibility of Paris coming back, and then also Mike coming back. Now, obviously, Mike's situation is different now because of the incident. And so what I told the staff is I said, if you even want to entertain a running back, it better be like a guy, or there better be some type of connection. And the connection with Kobe is, Kobe was a guy that I recruited. And in that class, I didn't offer many guys. It was about three guys in that class, him and a couple other high-profile guys. And when he got to Clemson, we knew, like, okay, this guy's going to be special. But obviously Travis was still there. He had to wait his turn. And so, and then the two guys that came after are really, really good. So there's 3 NFL running backs, in my opinion, in that room. So when I saw that he went in the portal, it wasn't immediately a situation like, hey, Kobe, come to UVA. It's like, Kobe, we have a relationship. I really care about you. Man, I know what the portal is like. I know how perception is not necessarily reality. What are you thinking? And so we had a conversation, and he said that he'd be interested in taking a look at our situation. And so we went down, home visit to a couple coaches with me to meet him and his mom, brought him up on a visit, and gave him an opportunity to see if he wanted to look at some other options. And but he decided he wanted to reconnect, and as he says, we got some unfinished business that we need to take care of.
Sort of piggybacking on that, what does he bring to the table? And can you just kind of give us a look at what your running back room looks like at the moment? Right.
So what Kobe brings is he's a big running back. He's a 212-pound guy that can get up to 220 if he needs to. Coming out of high school, he was extremely strong. He was a 365-pound bench guy, 500 squat. I mean, he was like a weight room warrior, but when you watch him run, he's got great vision for a big guy. He's got really, really good feet, can make all the cuts, and he catches the ball well out of the backfield. So I think what he brings is the talent to really, really push the guys in the room. And then when you look at the rest of the room, obviously Mike was trending in the right direction. We'll see where he is when he comes back. Paris is a good change of pace guy that worked to become the starter. Cody Brown is a guy that we brought in last year. I'm excited about him because he's another big body, downhill kind of guy, but he didn't have the off season going through the transfer process that he needed. So I'm excited about him. We'll see where Folston is. So again, when he gets cleared, and then you got Xavier is another change of pace guy, and then you got Noah. Obviously Noah's coming off of a leg injury, broke his leg there late in the season, and then Dante is another big guy. So you got a combination of big guys and then a couple of change of pace guys to really kind of complement each other. But I think what Kobe brings is he started 6 games. He was a starter in 6 games. He averaged, I think, in his career or the season where he played the most, like 6 yards a carry. So he's done it at the highest level in one of the biggest programs, one of the most competitive situations. So I think he brings the competitive toughness that we're looking for, the talent, and then also too, I think y'all love Kobe, man. He's a very, very high character young man about the right things. So.
And I just want to ask you, of the guys that have an extra year that are eligible to get that extra year, do you know how many of them are taking advantage of that?
So right now it's they petitioned, and I really appreciate Jim Boozy administration and Jason Baum and compliance taking the lead on that. So there were 8 guys essentially that were you can count Ronnie, but Ronnie didn't play in more than 4 games, so he was able to save that year from a redshirt standpoint. So Ronnie's going to take advantage of his year. He's in the portal now, looking for an opportunity to play somewhere else. KT, Billy, AJ, they're all going pro. right? And it's the right decision for those guys. They were granted an extra year. Devontae Davis, the foot surgery, he's not going to pursue that additional year. So really right now, Famui and Cam Butler are the two that are taking advantage of the additional year that they were given. And just to clarify, because I've gotten questions on it, they didn't grant an additional year for everybody. It was just those 8, I think it was 9 guys that were in that position. But Ronnie, they didn't have to petition because he redshirted and he didn't play in more than 4 games, so he got that additional year. But also, too, just a couple of other things to announce, just, guys that have made a decision. Both Mish and Sackett Wood are going to come back for another year, so they're going to rejoin us for another year. They're going to play. They're going to keep playing as long as they can. Paul Akiri was a young man that had a decision to make. He's got 1 more year, but also he's very, very accomplished off the field and had some job opportunities that he could transition. He's going to come back. Cohen King, Antonio Clary are going to come back for 1 more. Josh Ahern is going to come back for 1 more, and then Hunter Stewart is planning on coming back, and then Chico will be back. So obviously, I know we lost some guys going into the portal, but we also had a good number of guys that decided that they want to come back and make another run at it.
All right, well, you answered my next question. But looking at the wide receiver room, you said that was a big emphasis for you guys. What do you want the wide receiver room to look like? Because you got a lot of varying kind of skill types.
Right, and so going into it, we had 5 seniors, in that group. That we were anticipating we're going to transition, and then you lose 2 guys off cycle because of the situation. So now you got 7 guys, and scholarship-wise, you try to be, around 10 is your number. And so with all of the departures, now we're sitting there. We got 4 scholarship guys in the room, and 1's still recovering from an ACL. And you look at what we currently had. You got 3 big guys, and then you got Demeek, who's he's a tweener. He's a 6-footer, 6'1" kind of guy, but he's a blazer. So we just wanted to create some variance in the room. And I think what you're also seeing in college football is the emergence of the slot receiver, coming back. I think there was a trend where everybody wanted to go to the big trees on the outside, the 6-foot guys, and now you're starting to see more of the slot, more dynamic guys coming back into the picture. So when you look at the breakdown for us, we got JR, you have Malachi, which are 2 big guys. You got Twitty, which is another big guy. Then you got Demeek. So what we added is Tyleric. I think Tyleric is a 6'1", 6'1.5", maybe 6'2" guy. That's dynamic, developmental guy, but man, he's got the ability to be a guy that can do both. Play to the boundary if he needs to, but also play to the field and in the slot. Sedarian is he's a slot. He's a jitterbug, high school quarterback that's very dynamic. That'll give you that true slot. Titus is another big guy, so you added another big guy to the equation. Jaden is kind of that tweener. Really, really good football player that can do it all. And then you got Malik, who's another true slot. So really just trying to balance it out so that we got, some variance, but then we also got enough of what we need in terms of depth. When you need big guys on the outside, you got depth. You're not just 1 deep. And then the same thing with the slot guys. And then we'll see once we get them here, which of those slot guys can also be a down the field kind of guy,
Even with Flores and Logan Taylor in the portal, you've got a lot coming back in the offensive line room.
Yeah.
Didn't mention Divine. I know he's 5 or 6 years.
So no, the Divine and Leach said that their time was up, that they're going to transition. They're going to transition on to life after football. So we lost those guys, and so going into it, we were counting on possibly those guys coming back, so that gave us our number. Then when those 2 guys left, then we said, okay, now we got to go replace. And then so that is when we went hot and heavy on Dejan, right, to fill one of those spots. And so we still had another tackle spot that we wanted to fill. And then now that JP and Logan have gone in, now we have to try and find us 2 tackles and possibly another interior guard center guy.
Yeah, how much room do you have for the spring? And you'll obviously be adding an offensive line coach at some point, but do you have a timetable for that?
Yeah, I don't have a timetable. I don't want to rush, considering when you think about some of those veteran guys, what they've been through in the last just 2 calendar years, it's been a lot. So I want to try and take my time, make sure I get that right, give them a voice and an opportunity to express, their desires and what they would like to see happen at that position. But it'll be before we get back from the break, for sure. And then we're planning on possibly taking advantage of the NCAA's new quiet period between January 4th and January 8th to bring guys in on visits for mid-years. And we've been in conversation with a couple of offensive linemen that are in the portal. But it looks like, we're going to have to address those numbers, possibly another two guys on the offensive line in the next recruiting window. Yeah, so 85. So we're still at 85, and then 15 is my number that I like to keep on the offensive line. And right now, I'm sitting at 3 under when you look at it, losing those guys. So I'm 15. I got 12. So I try to, but I don't want to just fill them with anybody, because again we got a lot of young guys that we recruited, but we feel like we got some talented guys. We got to grow them up, but I think we do need to address just from a distribution and a leadership standpoint, trying to get the right older guys in if they fit.
With Parker, and I guess with Musket too, what do you look for in those lower level college players that makes you think it will transition well to your level?
Right. So when you're looking at it, first and foremost, it's fit. What is their character? What do the coaches say about them? What do their opposing coaches say about them? And then all the background checks, make sure it's a good fit from a character standpoint. Because the last thing, and that's going to be the hardest thing going forward when you start talking about building a program, sustaining a program, when you have the transfer portal, is how do you maintain the culture in your locker room if you're constantly bringing guys from the outside. So one, making sure that they're a good fit. And then when you look at them athletically, do they still have room before they hit their ceiling? So you bring up Parker, you look at a guy like Parker, you think about where he's coming from. Now when he gets into our system with the nutrition, the strength and conditioning, right, the level of resources that we have to help him grow from a football standpoint, is there still room in the ceiling, or is he maxed out? Right, and so still looking for guys that are not necessarily peaked, because if they're peaked, then it's going to be hard for them to compete. But if they still got a little room in their ceiling, that's what I'm looking for. So it starts with the academic fit, the character fit, and then do they still have some room in their ceiling that we can develop them? Because again, these guys that are leaving for situations where they got 1 or 2 years, most of it's a bit about development. I just want to go somewhere where I can finish developing, play against maybe a higher level of talent in preparation for the next level.
Kind of a bigger picture kind of question. Last year, it was the portal was kind of chaotic. There was no windows. A lot of coaches talked about their own mental health. Now windows now with these transfer windows. Do you like more regulated, I guess, transfer portal? What are your thoughts?
Correct. I like the regulation just because it creates a little bit more sense of direction, from a recruiting standpoint. I wish there was a little bit more education about the realities of the transfer portal for the student athletes that go into it and their families, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions. When you just look at the pure statistics, there's not enough spots for the guys that are entering. And the reality is not everybody is going to have an opportunity to transfer laterally or transfer up. You're seeing a trend where a lot of guys are having to transfer down because that's the only spots that they have available. So I wish there was just a way you could educate them more so that they know all the facts and factors before they get in. But I know it's hectic because you're trying to recruit high school guys, and then you're flying all over the place trying to meet with transfer guys anywhere that you can meet with them. So it does, from a mental health standpoint, put a lot of pressure on the coaches. But I do like the fact that they are trying to say, okay, let's put some order to this thing. I think it's a good. I'm in favor of the transfer portal, and I'll say that publicly. But I do believe that you got to have the right regulation on it, right, so that it's used properly, appropriately, and then the ones that are trying to benefit and the ones who should benefit is the student athlete. Right, that's what it's for. It's for the student athlete to benefit. But I wish that there was just a little bit more education about the realities of it. And I don't know if there is any more regulation that you can put in place, right, to further, protect the student athlete. Because, man, it's really disheartening, when young men go in and there's not a place for them to go. And that's really where I lose sleep at night, is that, man, you going in the portal, it's not everything it's cracked up to be, and understand that once you enter the portal, a coach can cancel your aid, and I had a decision to make on several of those, and the decision that I made is any of the guys that were going into the portal that need another semester, I'm going to pay for their school for another semester so they can graduate. and be a graduate of University of Virginia before they transfer on. But I ran into some cases on the road where a young man's a semester away from graduating. He enters the portal because he wants to go up a level and try and find a better opportunity, and his aid is canceled. And so now he's hamstrung from going to certain places because of the transfer rules for each institution is different, right? So if he doesn't graduate, there's going to be schools that he cannot go to, right? But he's not going to be in a position to graduate because his aid has been canceled, right? So there's a lot of things out there that a lot of people don't know about the transfer portal that could really, really put young men in a bad situation if they don't have it. And the other thing too is tampering. So you still got tampering out there, as you're seeing where guys go in, hour 10, and by hour 11 they got a spot. I mean, well, that probably tells you that they already knew where they were going before they got into the portal. Which, kudos to them, but that's not the intention of what we're trying to do here. And then now that creates opportunities for coaches, right, to hide behind the disguise of recruiting, right, to build their roster. And so I'm for it. And I like the new regulations that they're putting on it. I just want it to be a situation where everybody can win. And right now, I think the institutions win because, again, my roster is my roster, right? And I'm going to fill my roster to 85, and then I'm done, and I'm moving forward. Whereas there's thousands of kids that are in the portal, right, that they're just waiting on somebody to have a spot on their roster, and maybe they don't have a spot. So,
Take our last question from Jerry.
Speaking of regulation and tampering, what is your worst horror story from the NIL, and have you lost any guys, do you think, because of NIL?
well, I'll say this. I think the impact of NIL was more so with some of the older guys just wanting that have earned the right. They're graduates, so I have no problem with it. Possibly testing the waters to see what's available out there at some of the schools that are really participating in NIL, and it's starting to become more of a conversation piece. And really, just the worst thing is people just want to know what your number is, and the reality is I don't have a number, and no college coach should be able to tell you they have a number. Right, because the rules are not the way it's set up. There's no coach should know what the collective's numbers are per position or what's available. Now, you can have historical data and say, okay, these guys that have come through our program, historically, this is what they've been able to, take advantage of. But to come in and say, hey, this is the number for this particular position, I've been kind of hit with that. And my approach is, hey, the number. Right, the average starting salary from a graduate from the University of Virginia is $77,000. $14.5 billion endowment, unbelievable opportunity to get your education. Right, here's what our stipend is in your scholarship. This is the cash amount that you're going to get in excess that's approved through your cost of attendance and your Austin fund. And then we have a collective, and here's the historical data of some of our top players and what they've done. That's all I got for you. But people still, kind of want more. Like, all right, no, I need an actual number. I was like, I don't have a number for you. And unfortunately, if a coach is telling you he has a number for you, then he's breaking the rules, and so be it. That's kind of been my approach. But I think going forward, it's going to be something that's more of a conversation piece because there is use for it. I think it's necessary. Again, I support the NIL. I was a broke college student, right? That couldn't get a free meal. It was a violation if I took a soda pop from somebody. So I'm all for the NIL and guys taking advantage of it, and I'm all for market value, but also to understanding what's the true definition of market value, and not turning it into truly a pay-for-play situation, because I think that just that breaks down the integrity in the locker room and turns it more into a pro model. And again, I have my perspective on it, and I just worry about 18-year-olds becoming professional athletes without having any kind of preparation or support for their future. But I do support the NIL and the proper use of it.